For a century, Norway's monarchy has been the quiet anchor of a noisy democracy, respected, distant, and untouchable. On June 15, 2026, that changed. It changed not because of a law and not because of an election, but because of a criminal trial. The defendant was Marius Borg Høiby. He was 29 years old, with no royal title and no constitutional role. And yet, by the time the court delivered its verdict, the case had become something far larger than the guilt or innocence of one man. It had become a reckoning, a test of whether an institution built on distance and dignity could survive the kind of proximity that shreds both. The verdict landed hard. He was found guilty on 2 counts of rape and guilty on charges of domestic violence. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison. The prosecution had asked for 7 years and 7 months. The defense had argued for 18 months. The court landed in between, and in doing so confirmed what many Norwegians had spent months struggling to accept, that a young man raised inside the orbit of the throne had crossed lines from which no proximity to power could protect him. Marius Borg Høiby is not a prince, and he holds no place in the line of succession. But he grew up on the royal estate alongside his half-siblings, Princess Ingrid Alexandra, the future queen, and Prince Sverre Magnus. His mother, Mette-Marit, married Crown Prince Haakon when Marius was 4 years old. From that moment forward, he lived inside the architecture of the Norwegian monarchy, not as a member, but as a presence, a figure whose proximity to the throne was impossible to separate from his identity. The case began in August 2024, when police arrested Høiby at an apartment in Oslo. The initial charges involved an ex-girlfriend, but as investigators dug deeper, the scope widened. By the time the trial opened on February 3, 2026, prosecutors had assembled a file containing 40 alleged offenses. 4 rape charges sat at the center, and 1 involved an alleged assault on the royal estate in 2018. The symbolic weight of that detail cannot be overstated. The estate is not just a residence, it is one of the physical anchors of the Norwegian monarchy. To have it named in a criminal indictment was, for many Norwegians, a violation of the unspoken compact between the institution and the public. The prosecution built its case on digital evidence. Videos recovered from Høiby's phone became central. The women involved told the court they had been unaware of the incidents until police discovered the recordings. The defense argued the interactions were consensual. Høiby, giving evidence via video link, denied the most serious allegations. This collision exposed something uncomfortable about the Norwegian justice system. According to the state prosecutor, 1 in 3 rape cases that reach Norwegian courts ends in acquittal. In a case where the defendant is the son of the future queen, every decision, by police, by prosecutors, by judges, is scrutinized not just for legal correctness, but for signs of favor. That scrutiny intensified around one specific question: what happened on the royal estate on August 4, 2024? According to police logs, 33 minutes passed between the first police contact with Marius Borg Høiby and his eventual arrest. That window has become the most contested stretch of time in this entire story. Crown Princess Mette-Marit has acknowledged she was in contact with her son during that period. Was this a mother speaking to her son at the moment his world was collapsing? Or was it something closer to influence, to protection, to the old logic of elite proximity reshaping events? Norway is divided on the answer. The tension deepened further when attention turned to reports of damaged equipment, a mobile phone, a SIM card. The legal gap matters, but in the court of public opinion, the damage was already done. When a criminal case intersects with a royal estate, timing stops being just timing. It becomes symbolism. And while Norway was still absorbing the implications of that case, a second scandal, one we have already examined in detail, pushed the crisis into a much wider frame. In April, we released a documentary on Crown Princess Mette-Marit's connection to Jeffrey Epstein, covering meetings between 2011 and 2013 and the public regret she expressed in 2019. But when a fresh wave of Epstein documents entered public view in February 2026, the story deepened. Email exchanges surfaced, using language that felt personal, not diplomatic, and the question that had been dormant for years returned with new weight. How close was too close? What matters here is not the Epstein connection itself, since we covered that story in full. What matters is the timing. Mette-Marit gave an interview to Norway's public broadcaster on March 20, 2026, describing herself as manipulated and insisting she never witnessed illegal acts. That interview aired while her son's trial was approaching its most explosive phase. The Norwegian public was absorbing two narratives at once: a criminal trial centered on predation and consent, and a royal figure's past proximity to one of the most notorious sex offenders in modern history. The overlap was not causal, but it was corrosive. Two scandals, one family, and a single uncomfortable question. When proximity to power keeps generating the same pattern of distance, of silence, of explanations that arrive too late, does the problem lie with the individuals or with the institution that protects them? By the time the court delivered its verdict on June 15th, the atmosphere around the monarchy had shifted palpably. The judges found Høiby guilty on 2 of the 4 rape charges, one from 2018 and one from 2024. He was acquitted on 2 others. He was also convicted of domestic violence against his ex-girlfriend Nora Haukeland, the only victim the court ruled could be publicly named. In total, Høiby was found guilty of 34 of the 40 charges he faced. The sentence was 4 years in prison with compensation of 640,000 kroner to 4 of the women. Høiby was not in the courtroom. He attended via video link from prison. His lawyers announced an immediate appeal. Within weeks, he was released to house arrest on the royal estate, the very place where one of the rapes was determined to have occurred, pending the outcome of that appeal. The symbolism was unavoidable. A convicted rapist, awaiting appeal, was confined to the same royal residence that had become a crime scene in the public imagination. For critics of the monarchy, it was a crystallization of everything they had long argued: that the institution operates by different rules, that proximity to power still bends outcomes. And then there is Mette-Marit herself. Already seriously ill with pulmonary fibrosis, she has been placed on a lung transplant waiting list. The image is difficult to hold. A crown princess fighting for her life while the institution she was meant to one day lead absorbs blow after blow. Polling in Norway suggests support for the monarchy has weakened. The direction is consistent. Norway has long been one of the places where monarchy looked unusually stable, not just tolerated, but genuinely trusted. When support starts slipping there, it signals something deeper moving beneath the surface. A monarchy does not survive on law the way a parliament does. It survives on consent, on symbolism, on the belief that the people at its center deserve to be there, not by inheritance alone, but by the quality of their judgment and the moral authority they carry. The question facing Norway now is whether that belief can survive what has been revealed. Not just the crimes of one man, but the unanswered questions, the uncomfortable proximity to Jeffrey Epstein, and the sense that the old tools of silence, distance, and dignified restraint are no longer sufficient. Monarchies are not overthrown in Norway, they are outgrown. They fade when the public stops believing they are necessary, or when the people at their center stop looking worthy of the role. That is the danger now, not revolution, not abolition, but something quieter and, in its own way, more final, the slow withdrawal of trust. We have seen Norway respond to crisis before. On July 22, 2011, the country faced its deadliest day since World War II and chose roses, not revenge. That documentary was about what happens when a nation's character is tested by violence from the outside. This story is different. It is about what happens when a nation's character is tested by decay from within. Not a bomb, not a gunman, but something slower, less visible, and in its own way just as capable of reshaping what Norwegians believe about their country. Institutions are not just structures, they are stories. Stories a nation tells itself about who it is, what it values, and what it will protect. The monarchy has been one of Norway's longest-running stories. What happens when enough people stop believing the telling? And once that process begins, it rarely reverses. Hidden Norway exists because stories like this, the ones that don't fit the postcard, are what this country actually is. The good, the bad, and sometimes the kind of reckoning that forces a nation to look at itself more honestly than it ever has before. Norway's monarchy that is not a fairy tale, it is an institution. And institutions, like people, are only as strong as the trust they earn. If you find yourself drawn to Norway, the people, the history, the culture, the systems that hold it together, you have come to the right place. Subscribe and follow along, and if you want to go deeper, the channel membership unlocks raw, unfiltered videos from the streets of Oslo and beyond.